back. I've been out for a while, but I just wanted to tell you that I found the first study on this coronavirus, and I am absolutely horrified because there were articles that were saying, oh, it's only 2 to 3% of people that get it die, they're mostly old. Well, here I've got the latest study, and I do know some people that are in China, and I've spoken with them, and they're telling me, rumor has it, that they are burying people and cremating them before they can even count them, and that the count might not even be accurate. This particular article was just off the press. I've got the link here, and I did a screenshot, but I wanted to show you the actual article and read to you. Now, this particular article says 11% fatalities, 83% transmission rate. Now let's go look at the study real quick, and I'll read some of this off to you, and you can of course go to it yourself. You can download the PDF. So basically, the background summary says that in December 2019, a pneumonia associated with the 2019 novel coronavirus emerged in Wuhan, China. We aim to further clarify the epidemiological and clinical characteristics of this pneumonia. Now, it's a descriptive study, so basically the method they used is retrospective and a single center study. So they only went to one medical center, and we included all the confirmed cases in the study that they could find from January 1st to January 20th. So there's a time frame and a snapshot in one location at the Wuhan Jinitan Hospital. So they only counted people and documented this. They're real-time RT-PCR and were analyzed for I'm so nervous. Sorry. So anyway, the outcomes were followed up until January 25th, 2020. So a couple of days, 5 days ago, they stopped. They wrote it up, and they followed 99 patients. Okay, so that's about 100 people, 100%. 49% of these patients had a history of exposure to this Hunan seafood market, and the average age of the patients is 55.5 years old. Now in China, they count you as one the minute you're born. At least this is what my friends from China told me. In other words, somebody who is 55 is really 54 in the United States counting, unless the people that did this article or study adjusted for that. I don't know. Okay, so 49% of the people, average age 55, 67 were men and 32 were women. Now, it was detected in every one of these patients in real time, and 51% of the patients had chronic diseases, high blood pressure, diabetes, different chronic diseases, or they could just have arthritis. Who knows? So the patients had underlying conditions. We don't know what they are. Now, the clinical manifestations of fever came in 83% of the patients, cough in 82%, shortness of breath in 31%, muscle ache 11%, confusion 9%, headache 8%, sore throat 5%, rhinorrhea, that's the sinus stuff, 4%, chest pain 2%, diarrhea 2%, nausea and vomiting only 1%. According to the imaging examination, 75% of the patients showed bilateral pneumonia. That means that 2 of their lungs, both of their lungs, had pneumonia, and it wasn't just one, but 75% of it had it in both of their lungs. Now that's very serious. It's worse than bronchitis, and it's a virus, so you can't throw antibiotics at it really, because it's not going to work. It's a virus. The patients showed multiple mottling and ground glass opacity. Now, when they're talking about the multiple mottling, that is a sign on the skin that is often shown in blood poisoning. There's a test you can give where you put a glass against the person's skin, and it shows that they have blood poisoning. They're so badly infected. So that's a serious 14% having that. And so it's like the oxygen's not getting properly around in their body. And then 1% patient had pneumonia thorax, and 17% developed acute respiratory distress syndrome. And among them, 11% worsened in a very short period of time and died of multiple organ failure. 11%, that's pretty darn high. Now, this is just one snapshot, a point in time for about a little, not quite 3 weeks, from January 1st to the 20th, of 99 patients, almost 100. And this is, so the details go. Now, when you're talking about population samples and stuff, and the ages, they didn't have babies in there. They didn't have really elderly people, like people in their 80s. They had middle-aged people mostly, and mostly men. So, they didn't say how many men and how many women died. I'll put this article for you to look at, but this is quite alarming if you ask me. Now, so you're going to hear different stories, and you're going to see different things. Now, I did a sort of a less alarming 20 or so minutes of details about transmission of different viruses and how populations tend to, as populations get over, as anything, humans or animals get overpopulated, there tends to be more diseases that crop up, and new diseases. Now, I think that people need to get prepared, because this coronavirus is a lot worse now that we know this, okay? We know from this small study that it is serious. 11% of people middle-aged, half of them did have underlying things like rheumatoid arthritis, or, I don't know what else they had, but they didn't say. They could just have high blood pressure. But how many people don't have underlying health problems in their middle age, upper? So, they're saying your pets can catch it. So this, the World Health Organization did declare this an emergency, a global emergency, and okay, this is something you guys got to be careful about, because I think we might be having a pandemic. And what does that mean? It means that you need to be prepared and be careful. Be vigilant. Wash your hands, especially after you go out. Now, The problem with this virus is, and a lot of other viruses, is that these viruses, I'm just going to put down some of these new links below here. So basically what I did is I changed the background color because I'm updating what I talked about earlier, which was a less informed, since the new study just came out by Lancet, and it was published today in the Lancet, and evidently it is serious. So I would say, as I said, the World Health Organization declared a global health emergency. Now, I have ancestors that lived through the pandemic of the Spanish flu, which probably most people do have. I've met cousins that my great-grandmother, her brother, died in the Spanish flu epidemic. The great-grandmother and the other relatives didn't, and they had children, and the children didn't see the flu. They did see their dad die of the flu. The Spanish flu is what they called it back then. So I think it was 1918 or something, but what I'm trying to say is it might kill, and I think he was like in his 30s, maybe 20s, but he had a family, 4 kids, and he died from this. Now, if you can't breathe, which pneumonia really makes it really hard for you to breathe, it's just a horrible thing. I've had this before, and I was so wiped out, I thought I was going to die. You're just gasping for air. It feels like you're drowning. And they give you prednisone, or they can give you things to stop the inflammation, but it gets you kind of wired. And you lose weight because you can't eat. And your organs do start to shut down. So you need to get to a hospital and get medical care. But the hospitals in this area are overwhelmed. It's very sad to hear what these doctors in China are crying because they can't even get a break. They're overwhelmed. I was reading about it last night, but I didn't even mention it. But they've been breaking down crying after days without sleep, trying to help these people that are dying. Think about 11% of your patients are going to die. You know, and they're giving them care. They're giving them stuff to stop them from wheezing and not being able to catch their breath. They're giving them oxygen. They're doing things to try to help them. And people are dropping. They're dying. And they're not exactly super old. And they're not, babies. It was, I don't know which hospital this is at. This was another hospital in Wuhan. It says the area that's been quarantined since Thursday. So I don't think that, I do remember that I was reading an article saying that the doctors got in trouble when they first reported on this disease. And they were, China government didn't want them talking about this virus. They were sounding the alarm, and they were silenced. And so this is a serious illness. And, people have given their opinion before on this. and I don't want to wind up on too many ads. So let's take it one day at a time. Stock up on fluids. You probably want to get antivirals. Onions are very good, garlic. But here's the thing about your food. You've got to be careful about your food because the virus can be spread by food. Where do you get your food from? And let's go take a quick look at South China Morning Post because they probably have a better gauge on this because they're at the epicenter near there. So, okay, this was 11 hours ago. Let's take a look at this. And this was 14. So let's take a look. And then I'm going to have to jump off. But, you know, as far as transmission goes, it's highly contagious. It can live on surfaces, and the death rate is pretty high. So, but they did say 50% had underlying conditions, but hey, how many people don't have high blood pressure or, you know, something that requires looking after? So, now this article was earlier this morning, 6:44 a.m. I don't know if it's Eastern Standard Time or what, but the Health Commission director was dismissed. Oh my gosh. Russia's, of course, closed their border. You might have heard about that. Now, one thing that's good about these masks is it might be able, if you're carrying it, you might not spread it on other people as well. And it can filter out secondary bacterial infections and things like that. But as far as being completely safe, I mean, your hands can pick stuff up, surfaces can pick stuff up, so it's virtually impossible to completely, you know, put yourself in a bubble, and that's why you really need to be vigilant and you know, make your kids wash their hands before they eat, and anything that you bring in from outside that has touched other things that, you know, you've got to wash your clothes. It lives on clothes. It lives on surfaces. It's not that easy to contain. And if you have fruit flies, if you're in a warm area and there's fruit flies can spread it. You know, you don't think about these things. But if a fruit fly lands on an area or an animal or anything, insects are really good spreaders of disease. I've taken microbiology, and I've studied this transmission of disease a little bit. So I'm telling you that even, I don't know about fleas, but insects like fleas can transmit, even without biting you, viruses. Especially like the fruit flies. The fruit fly can land on the food. It can land on a salad, fruit. So you want to cook your food. You want to be vigilant and careful, and just do the best you can. And look at some of the emergency preparedness ideas. The CDC in the United States has a little bit about how it's transmitted through animals. But I'm telling you right now, even if a mouse or a squirrel or an animal is carrying it, it can be spread by insects, any kind of body fluid or droplets, and it can be spread by rain, believe it or not. So don't let people give you a false sense of security. You gotta stay on top of this, and don't be drinking water you don't know where it's come from. Boil water if you have to. Drink from wells. Did you know that if somebody, this is later on, it's not in the area here, but let's say you live in China in a rural area, and you're on a well, and there's a septic field. Well, if somebody in the house has a virus and they flush the toilet, it gets into the septic field and it drains off into the waterways. And so yeah, it gets filtered and stuff, but this can be transmitted through water, through the earth. And so it can get into well water too. It's not been unheard of that your groundwater doesn't get infected. So what do? Do you boil your water, and you have to be careful. Now, another thing about the coronavirus that I want to tell you that might be helpful if you're thinking about cleaning is that iodine. A lot of Americans are low on iodine, but iodine, you can get a supplement of iodine to help, because iodine acts sort of like an antiviral, but too much is bad for you. But it does help kill viruses, okay? Now, they put it in the salt because it can cause thyroid problems if you don't have it. Now, it's used as a preservative in curing foods and things like that, but some people don't like the table salt, and there's been some studies about the type of iodine that's in table salt, and they like to get like kelp type iodine. But what I'm saying is you can add, there's the type of iodine, it's called povidone solution, and this can clean, surfaces and your hands, and it can kill the virus. So what I do with this is I get this stuff, right? And I take my hand soap and I squirt it into the hand soap and I shake it up. And then I use it to wash my hands. And I'm helping to kill viruses. It's hard to get hand soap with it in it, but it's a broad spectrum antiseptic for topical application. Now, there's a cleaner that they can spray with stuff, but what I'm trying to tell you is if you can get some of this, have a little bit on hand if the flu or something's going around, and this could kill coronaviruses on surfaces. It's kind of messy because I don't know why they have this dark coloring in it, but it looks really dirty when you wipe it on. But you know, light switches when you go to flush the toilet, when you go to lift the toilet lid up, you know, you can pick this up on your skin when you sit on a toilet seat or whatever. So to be careful, to be mindful of different things and strategies you can use and help you to stay healthy. And even if you have, like, let's say you've got pneumonia from it, you've got to get your sheets changed because you're inhaling and exhaling, and there's microscopic virus. It gets on your sheets. If you clean these, and here's what I like to do when I'm cleaning the sheets, I put Lysol in the laundry to kill the germs. Ordinary soap is not going to kill it. Okay? Now, I'm not getting paid anything for this. I'm just giving you some ideas. But if you put a sanitizer, bleach does not kill viruses, okay? You need something like a virucide. Some bleach, bleach, oh my God, did somebody, no. Drinking bleach is lethal, guys. Okay, I just stumbled on this. Now, I'm telling you, Lysol and Clorox wipes do not fight this virus. So, there's a lot of stuff out here, and you've got to be careful. What you need to do is you need to go look at scholarly studies, okay, and research it. Now, I looked around on what kills this virus, and I came up with the povidone iodine for skin and surfaces. Now, it was the best out of all the different things to have on hand, especially for like adenovirus. Now, bleach is an effective disinfectant, but it doesn't kill everything. As a matter of fact, bleach does not even kill mildew all the way. Another thing that helps kill stuff is called white vinegar. So you've got to do your homework. So it says the acid kills bacteria and viruses chemically by changing the proteins and fats that make up the nasties and destroy their cell. So get some white vinegar, rotate different things, keep stuff as clean as you can, because even if you do contract the disease, you want to get it off the surfaces and continue to kill it so that the population of the virus is smaller. Because what happens is your body gets overwhelmed if there's too many germs around it. So if you can do that, and I don't even know, like, I know that you can use some air filter cleaners. Some of them have the O3 on it. But this is the problem with your air filters. This O3 is very hard on your lungs, which could actually make it worse. But it zaps the air and kills a lot of stuff in it. So the ozone generator, while it can kill stuff, I don't know if it actually kills the airborne. So anyway, this is really hard on your lungs and everything. You have to get out of the air, and so one of the things that really helps with your immune system is vitamin D. Now, vitamin D has to be taken with magnesium to help. Vitamin D helps with your immune system. Now, a lot of people that have chronic illnesses, like the 50% in the study, often have a D deficiency. I don't know why this happens, but the vitamin D is from the sun. Your body makes it on your skin from the sun. It's similar to photosynthesis, but your body does that. Now, rats are animals that are tested on a lot, and they are nocturnal, and they make their own vitamin D. So too much vitamin D would actually kill a rat. It causes the organs to calcify. And one of the problems is you need the magnesium to help transport the D. So if you're going to take a D supplement, always take magnesium with it, and it has to be a good type of magnesium. Now, beta-carotene or vitamin A is also good for your immunity. So what I would do was make sure your D levels are high enough. Doctor can test your blood for that. This time of year, when there's less sunlight, or if you've got a lot of pollution in areas like in China, where they don't have they have smog, or if there's a lot of cloudiness, this blocks out the sun, and then they have the D deficiency, which their immunity gets lower. Whoops. Okay, so as far as the coronavirus, I'm trying to help give some tips about what I know. Now, there is a thing called Sambuca, which is an antiviral. It is a current. Wait, I'm not talking about the alcohol. Wait a minute. It's like a black, it's a, you can buy these on like Amazon and, alright, here. I've actually made, it's elderberry, that's it, black elderberry. The name was escaping me. Okay. Now, I can make this from scratch. I have a recipe. You get dried black elderberries. I prefer the organic. And you boil them and you make a sugar syrup, and you could put a little alcohol in it, and you make homemade cough syrup. But the elderberry is it's a antiviral, okay, and it's an antifungal. It's loaded with antioxidants. You can buy it in a pill form, but this helps boost your immune system. So instead of running out and getting a bunch of decongestants alone, oh, I've got another trick for you. N-acetyl cysteine. Now, when I had pneumonia, this n-acetyl cysteine helped. Now, this stuff, it's kind of gross how they make it. And it's sometimes put in as dough conditioner in breads. You don't even know you're getting it. But it's derived from hair, and it causes the mucus in your lungs and phlegm. You know, like mucinex? Okay, so let's say you've got pneumonia. If you could get some of this and have it on hand, it smells really kind of sulfury, but I'm telling you, oh, there is a contraindication for this. It's if you have a liver problem, don't take it. You can look it up. I'm just telling you that sometimes they use this on patients with lung problems in the hospital, and it's an amino acid. And see here, I'm telling you that this particular illness, listen, why don't you can go, and I'll tell you what, I'll give you this link. I didn't mean to go on too much about this, so I'm trying to give you some, being forewarned is being forearmed. You can have stuff on hand, and you can take action to keep yourself healthy, and also try some home remedies. A lot of times people go in the hospital and they get exposed to more germs. Now, here, I'll put this link below here, and you can read this if you want afterwards. But this is a serious illness, and the doctors in China, they need prayers and they're in a state of emergency over there. And as you saw in the article, somebody was fired or dismissed in their government that had to do with this this sickness. So anyway, I'm not going to get into the details of this. I've read up on this before. I know about it, and I'm sharing it with you. But if you do have breathing problems like this, you might want to consider taking it. And like I said, it's made from hair a lot of times, but I've it really helped me when I was having problems. So those are some things you might not have been aware of. The elderberry, and you don't have to make your own, but there's a recipe you can get and make it homemade. I've made it homemade, and it's quite tasty. I used organic, all organic materials, and boiled it up and made a syrup, and it's very, very potent. Now another thing is onions. Believe it or not, onions are very good. As far as acidity goes and antiviral properties, onions are wonderful for that. So you can slow this down and Google this yourself. I'm not going to put a bunch of links in here, but onions are a food that are great for antivirals, and they're anti-inflammatory, and they have a very low pH level. They're like 10, and so what I would do is I would stock up on things that can help you. Oh, by the way, vitamin E is very important for your lungs. So now that we know the types of things we can have on hand and what the symptoms are, where it attacks the lungs, we can have these things on hand. Make sure we have supplies of soups, fresh vegetable soup, nourishing food. Get enough rest, for gosh sakes. If you don't have enough sleep or you're running yourself ragged, you're more prone to catch stuff. So rest. Listen to your body. Take a nap if you need a nap. Get foods on hand. Don't panic. Just, do what you have to do, and try to stay healthy. And I just want to thank you for watching, and I'm going to jump off now. And it is serious. It is, and I just wanted to offer some suggestions. You don't have to do it. What works for one person doesn't work for another. And, it's one day at a time. Okay, well, take care, everybody, and thanks for watching, and I'll put these links below.